Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Power Up. Trisha Hirschberger here, joined by the lovely and effervescent Maude Garrett. Maude, how are you today?
I love that. Thank you so much. I still love that we are the colors of our banner and the show, that you are always blue and I will always be pink. Even though my set is soon to change, as well as maybe the chair because the armrest is broken. But you are watching Power Up. This is our weekly show where we talk about what we are currently playing, watching, and reading. We're going to get Amy Cassandra Martinez in to also give us a little bit of news because it's news week. So we're going to hear what's happening in news-wise, but then also tell you what we have been delving into. And if you're watching this live, hi there, sup. If you want to hit that follow button on Trisha's Twitch, that'd be amazing. For the first time ever, Geek Brom is hosting the show.
Yay!
I know, I'm learning how to twatch.
That's what Maude was like, after the show today, we're going to have to talk about how to host on Twitch from Geek Bomb. And I was like, oh, it takes 2 seconds. We can do it before the show. Huzzah!
Yeah, and we got it done just in the nick of time. I don't know about you, I've been playing a lot, finally. I had a lot of time off gaming, but now I am back into it. I've been watching a lot and I've been reading a lot, and I have a feeling, I don't know if you've been the same as well, but this is the show where to talk about it. If you're not watching live, if you're watching later, you are on the Geek Bombs YouTube channel. We dipped under 100,000. So if you'd like to subscribe, that would be amazing. So give everything a follow, a subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. You just hit a button.
Yep. And we're happy to have you here. So thank you so much. As Maude mentioned, we're bringing in Amy Cassandra Martinez to tell us what's going on in the world of news. What's going off in playing, Amy?
Whoa.
Well, yesterday was a big day. Yesterday was the Xbox Game Showcase. So there was 10 world premieres and there was 22 console launch exclusives. Every game shown in the launch will be in the Xbox Game Pass or free to play. There was so many. I know, Trish, you talked about some on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be here all day if we were going to recap the entire thing. So just kind of talk about your favorites. The pictures are there. So yes.
Yeah. So I thought it was a good show. I know there were kind of mixed reviews all over the internet. Maude, did you get a chance to watch it?
No, I kind of opted out of all sort of E3 moments and those. I have almost PTSD from getting up at 6 a.m. so I can sit in traffic for an hour and a half, only to sit in a room full of 2,000 other people and have my phone service not work, and then to do an R. So I just kind of like the TLDR versions of all of these. And the best thing about doing this show with you is that you do all the work and then you get to tell me those highlights.
Well, and that's how I feel about you when we get to watching. So look, it's this give and take relationship. It's perfect. But yeah, so Xbox Games Showcase yesterday, I thought it was a really good show. People were very mixed feelings on the Halo Infinite gameplay, which was shown, which we were shown Halo Infinite gameplay, which was cool. It looks a little like an older, well, I shouldn't say older, but it looks like current gen or maybe even older gen hardware. But they did say it's a very obviously early preview of it. And the gameplay was awesome. They introduced a grapple hook mechanic, which we have never seen in Halo before, which was neat. And the character design of the villain, who we were watching it live on my Twitch channel. We were doing a watch along, and everyone in chat was like, "Is that Darren DePaul?" So it remains to be seen if the villain is voiced by Darren DePaul. We shall see. But it got me hyped as someone who really likes the Halo series. I was excited. It made me want to play. And Alana Pierce actually had a really good tweet that she was like, everybody's mad that Halo doesn't look hyper realistic, but here I am choosing to play Halo 2 in the Master Chief Collection with the OG graphics instead of the remastered. So,
yeah.
So it's not necessarily all about that. I think when we watch a lot of these next-gen showcases, we tend to be very critical because our expectations have been made to be so high. And, everyone's trying to figure out whether or not this is something that they want to invest their time into and their money into for the next gen. But there was a new title from Obsidian called Avowed, which Obsidian makes amazing RPGs. That's what they do. That's what they're known for. And Avowed is a new fantasy RPG from them that looked really, really awesome. a game called The Medium, which I saw in an Xbox showcase before, but we got to see more of this time, simultaneously renders two worlds. So like the otherworldly world and the real world, and you can switch between them is what we saw in this trailer for it, which was cool. We didn't get much information on a Fable other than that there is a new Fable and people are stoked about it.
Since when? 2012, 2011?
Been a long time. Yeah, been a long time. And I mean, the big thing with Xbox Game Pass that they're really kind of touting for the Series X and the next generation of consoles is that you don't need to buy the Xbox Series X next gen console to play the next gen games. Now, there was some debate online about when they said like a console launch exclusive, what does that specifically mean? In our chat, we were saying, you know, that it's going to launch specifically for out of the consoles. It will only be Xbox, not PlayStation, but Xbox could include the Series X, the Xbox One, and PC. So I think that's what Microsoft means when they say, you know, we're not doing exclusive. If you're a Microsoft consumer, no matter what hardware you have, we want you to be able to access these games. They'll obviously just look better.
That's new for Xbox, but it's not for Nintendo. A way that Nintendo really kind of like set itself apart was that it was kind of backwards compatible. So it always sort of nurtured their classic titles. They made sure that like their old school stuff was available on newer platforms. Whereas I remember PlayStation and Xbox were always trying to say that they were trying to future-proof their stuff. So like that's why PlayStation has so many upgrades all the time, because they're using their sort of like software and tech to bump up those specs and systems. Xbox, I don't know, I kind of felt like when I got the 360, as soon as the One came out, I had a pile of like 28 360 games that were immediately redundant.
Can I tell you something that's going to break your heart right now? The Xbox One has backwards compatibility.
With 360?
With a lot of 360 games. Not everyone, but there's a long list of them.
Do you have to put the disc in? Or download the game again? Because I'm not paying price for my games.
I think there's a list that works with discs, but what Microsoft is saying here is actually different than backwards compatibility. They're talking about forwards compatibility. So if you buy it now for the not future-proofing. If you buy it now for the Xbox One, when the Xbox Series X comes out, if you also buy the Series X, you will get the upgraded version of it for free.
Is that because we're not really doing hard copies anymore and you can just download all the titles?
A lot of it is. So they're really pushing Game Pass, which is their Netflix, essentially, for video games. Love Game Pass. All the things that they showed, so those 10 world premieres, the 22 console launch exclusives, are all Microsoft titles, which means they'll all be available on Game Pass for $10 a month at launch. Yep. So if you figure, because I've done this before, because, you know, for work, a lot of times I'll have to play a new game, and I don't have relationships with every developer and publisher, and I don't work for a major gaming outlet so that I'm given free games all the time. That's not a thing I have access to. So if I want to play a new game, like this Sunday I'm going to start playing Ghost of Tsushima, I have to spend $60 to buy Ghost of Tsushima. Now,
dude, 80, 90 if you're in Australia.
And that is also true. Whereas with Game Pass, I can look at, here's a $60 game, or I could just pay $10 and have it plus 200 other games for the next 6 months. For the same price of what I would have spent for this one title. And I get this title plus a bunch of other stuff.
And it makes resentment proof, because if you've spent all this money and you're not really gelling with the game, then you just play another one. And it's kind of like, I love that. I'm a big fan of it. And a lot of the time Game Pass will actually offer old titles for free, or heavily discounted. Yep.
So, and as someone that loves indie games, I feel like Game Pass inspires people to try new indie games that they might not otherwise have tried. And as someone who's primarily a PC gamer, everything Xbox is doing, where everything's cross-platform, you can cross-platform play, you can buy it on Xbox and own it both on PC and Xbox, etc. That's called Microsoft Play Anywhere. Microsoft has been making a huge push in the last couple of years specifically to unite. No matter what Microsoft hardware you have, you can play your Microsoft titles on all of it. And that is completely opposite from Sony's strategy, which is saying, if you want to play these new exclusive titles, you got to get the PS5. Only way to do it. So will it drive sales of the PS5? Totally. A year from now, when we look at PS5 sales versus Series X sales, we're going to see a substantial difference. And I know people are going to say, it's because Sony's better, but it's actually just a completely different sales strategy.
Sony has been outperforming in sales over Xbox consistently for since day one almost.
Right, which might be a good reason why Microsoft is changing their strategy.
This is like the first time we've really chatted about gaming. You know, I'm a console gamer. I haven't PC gamed in a while. I prefer Xbox because I was a Nintendo loyalist.
Mm-hmm.
So to go from sort of Nintendo to Xbox, I felt like, especially with the 64 controller and then the Xbox controller, that for me was like the better assimilation that happened. Because to stick with Nintendo, it's all of a sudden, I'm playing drums with my controllers. And now it's a controller and a console. So like they're just like, their rules are out the window. But I prefer Xbox's interface. I like having the Xbox app so I can chat with people instead of having to painstakingly punch in one little letter at a time like a 1999 SIM card phone. I've always kind of liked Xbox better, but I will always have a PlayStation, and I have since 3 because of exclusive titles.
Because of exclusives, that marketing strategy totally works. Like right now I have my PlayStation hooked up to my streaming rig because I played Final Fantasy VII Remake, I played The Last of Us Part 2, and now I'm probably going to play Ghost of Tsushima. All titles I can only play on my PlayStation. So yes, while I prefer my Xbox Elite Series 2 controller that I have downstairs in my living room because it just feels so beautiful in the hand.
What's that, a 250? Because I got one for my brother for his birthday.
Love it. Yes, I have the Series 1 and the Series 2 Elite controllers, and they're both amazing.
Yeah.
Both amazing.
Do you have a favorite Halo and or Fable memory?
Ooh. I don't know. I feel like every time that I reach, there's a point in every Halo game, at least one, usually multiple, where you get the Halo music as you are like brought out into a beautiful horizon. And there's at least one of those moments that just makes your jaw drop during every Halo game. So I would say putting all of those together would be my favorite Halo moment. What about you, Maude? I have a feeling it's going to be Fable.
2014, seeing a guy, he lived with a bunch of other guys that all gamed. They had a living room. They had a separate room that they had tiered seating in to try and make their own cinema. It was a giant TV. They all got blasted on smoking bongs. I don't touch that stuff. And it was a Friday night tradition where we would go in and play Halo 3 in a competitive mode. And I think we'd had up to 8 people playing under the one roof at the one time. And my favorite part is I may have not have been the best in the room, but I was certainly never the worst, and I would always kind of be mid-range. And that for me was like enough to be accepted as one of them.
Yeah, girl, get it. Amy, you're awfully quiet over there. Anything from the Xbox showcase that looked good to you, or anything you saw from your research?
Well, honestly, my only experience with any of these games was with Halo. 8 years ago, I played it for the first time. It was like Christmas Eve or something. I went to visit like extended family, and I was like, so, Halo, what is this about? And so I started playing some of it, and I was like, yeah! I got really into it. So, like I'm kind of interested in it. I have what do we have? An Xbox One. That's about the extent of what I know.
She loves watching.
yeah, but I'm definitely during quarantine. I'm getting into gaming and reading as well. So
yeah, girl,
reading are helping me. I'm venturing out of the phone games and onto Xbox games.
Console gaming.
One of us.
I'm most pumped about Fable though. I just find them to be really, really fun, easy, accessible, good games. Like it's a little bit sort of like kiddie-ish in a way, where if like an 8-year-old picked up and started to play, I wouldn't be like, no. I like the City of Albion. Isn't John Cleese or someone like that like a big voice in it a lot of the time?
I don't know.
Pretty sure. That kind of stuff I absolutely love. My favorite Fable memory, I believe it was like 2010 or 11. I was playing online because they had online capabilities with one of my oldest friends, who I used to play World of Warcraft with back in the day. But obviously, like, that whole schematic where if you want health, you eat the food. So I ate this delicious fat looking pie. It was like a raspberry pie, and I ate it. And my character went from one that looked like me to being like 6 feet wide. And my friend online would giggle every time we would meet up because I would just be like charging into frame.
Amazing.
And the ground would be moving every step that I took. And I was like, I had one pie. And so I only ate celery from then on, and it didn't matter because I was just like done.
I get it. Mr. Stevie Games in chat says, I'm not a huge Xbox guy, but my love of red versus blue draws me to Halo, which again was such a good series and so popular in the cultural zeitgeist that yes, Halo is like, it's a real thing. If you haven't played it yet, I'm envious of you getting to jump in for the first time. And right now the Master Chief Collection is available, so you can kind of do the whole backlog before Infinite comes out if you so choose.
Oof.
Yeah.
More power to you. So I guess it takes us to the part where we talk about what we are playing. Trisha, Amy, thank you so much for dropping the news. We'll see you over. Oh no, for Bombs Away.
You know. Okay, Maude, what are you playing?
Oh, I'm back into Witcher. And so 1 a.m. I had to put down the controller at 1 a.m. this morning after about an 8-hour session. I started in the afternoon and I had ice cream for dinner and I played this and I love this game. The first time I played it was 2017, so it's been long enough to kind of forget enough of it and to re-explore this world as if it was for the first time. The way that they do this massive open world and put little question marks to be like, hey, what do you think's over there? And I'm like, I'll find out. I am not a completionist at all. I'm usually like if the secondary sideline quests are there, I will entertain it, but it is not like my be-all, end-all.
Okay. In
this case, it's quite bad. Like, I want to explore everything. I've only just unlocked the second region, Skellige, and I've been playing for what feels like 25, 30 hours.
There's so much to do in Witcher. And how much of your night was spent playing Gwent?
I don't go too hard with Gwent. Okay. I got the Baron's card, which I actually never did my first playthrough. I just totally dismissed that, and I didn't complete the game in that way. So I managed to do that this time around last night. But in terms of like Gwent, I can get really frustrated with the game because each game is quite long. So if you miss out only just, it's like to start again is just like, oh God, there's another 12 minutes that I've got to put into this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's why, like, every time I try to sit down and play Witcher 3, I never actually get through it because I get sidetracked with Gwent, and then, like, an hour's gone by and I've just been playing Gwent.
Yep, I know. Oh, I love it, though. I absolutely, yeah, it's great. I love the voice acting. I saw some titties last night. Ooh!
Yeah, that'll happen.
It's like a full top-down view of her bust, and I was just like, oh, if anyone asks me what I've been getting up to in lockdown, I can finally say that I got a little last night. Thank you.
I know.
Vicariously through Gerald.
I was hanging out with a friend of mine before a photo shoot. My friend's actually mutual friend, Eric, our mutual photographer friend, Eric.
Yeah.
And
he only now plays Destiny 2, and I think has hit something like 800 hours.
Well, anyway, bring up Eric because he was playing The Witcher while I had a friend of mine who's a hair and makeup artist come over and, like, help me get ready for the photo shoot. And she is not a big gamer. I have over the years convinced her to buy a Switch, and she plays Zelda, and like she's slowly getting into Nintendo, but not a huge gamer. But anyway, he was playing Witcher behind us, and like, or I guess behind me, and she was doing my makeup so she could see what was on the screen, and it was a very sexy part of Witcher that he got to, and she was like, "What is this? It's like video game porn." And I was like, yes, welcome to The Witcher.
Geralt sucks. Like, you really get some. And then you kind of like have choices where you want to be exclusive and you want it, like, there's an option where it was like, I'm spoken for, or I'm a taken man. And I was just like, let's go. Oh dear, I'm so lonely.
I love it. Hey, live your best life. Live your best Garrett life.
Thank you.
I finally finished The Last of Us 2.
How was it?
That's my gaming news. I finally finished it. It's very hard to talk about how that game is without spoilers. So don't worry, anyone that's listening to this. I'm not going to spoil the end of the game. Even though anyone who's watching this live in Twitch probably watched me play through the end of the game. And apparently, I've been seeing in Discord all the really funny screen caps of ridiculous faces I made playing through the last portion of the game because apparently The Last of Us 2 is fantastic for reactions. But it was really good. I thought it was really good. It was very heavy.
Yeah.
I still haven't really decided if I like the way it ended. I know a lot of people like the way it ended, and I've heard a lot of people say, you know, why they think it ended the way that it ended, and you know what it kind of means and what we're supposed to infer from it. And yeah, like I said after it, I was like, I need this to sit with me for a while. Like, you know how some films you see and it's not until a week later that you're like, okay, now I kind of have my concise thoughts on everything that was. And you know,
but it's making you think though, which I think is awesome.
It definitely makes you think, and that's something I really respect about it. I think all good forms of art really encourage heated discourse and encourage afterthought, and this definitely does. And so, and I also thought, technically speaking, it was a fantastic game. There were so many storytelling things in it that were very well done. The graphics are amazing. The voice acting's awesome. Like, there was a lot in it that was really, really great.
I feel like you finished The Last of Us 6 times faster than Final Fantasy VII.
Maybe. I wonder if I did like a... Here, let me just see how long to beat. Oh, the beautiful site, how long to beat. How long to beat Final Fantasy VII Remake, and see what it says on average. At least 25 hours, but I'm such a completionist. Around 35 to 40 hours. 35 to 40 for Final Fantasy VII. And
Last of Us is around 30.
Okay. So, yeah. Last of Us 2 is a little shorter. For sure. Beardtastic Yogi in chat says, The Last of Us 2 takes a little time to get out of even after you finish it. Exactly. Honestly, it was like reading a good book that has a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter. Like, you're like, well, I can't stop now. Well, I can't stop now. Well, I can't stop now. That's how I was with The Last of Us 2. There was never a point where I was like, this is a good time to end. Like, I was always like, okay, well, I'm ending the stream because I absolutely have to, but maybe I can sneak in an extra stream tomorrow because I don't want to wait 3 more days to continue the story. Like, it kept me going, which, again, I think is a mark of good storytelling and a really good game.
I'm having that with Witcher at the moment with just one more quest.
Yeah, and then if anyone's looking at this graphic next to us, if you're watching the video portion of this podcast,
what is that?
That dog right there, holding
a
duck that looks like he's from Five Nights at Freddy's.
No, it kind of looks like that's the Duck Hunt puppy.
There you go. It's from a virtual reality game called Duck Season. Duck Season puts you within a 1980s environment where you're playing a retro console and you go in the television to shoot ducks in a game that is exactly Duck Hunt, but in VR.
Got it.
And it's very funny.
It's a Freddy kind of dog.
I don't know that it's something I would have ever found on my own. Box's Best says Duck Season's the best VR game ever made. I don't know that it's something I would have found on my own, but one of the rewards on my Twitch channel, once you collect enough dragon scales, is that you can request games for me to play on stream. And this was a requested game that was chosen. And so I played it 2 days ago. I played it on Wednesday, yes. And it was hilarious. We laughed a lot. So thank you, chat, for suggesting VR Duck Season. And if anyone else needs to get out of a depressing game like The Last of Us 2, and you need something funny, albeit slightly disturbing in a completely different way, VR Duck Season is exactly what you need.
I'm thinking of dragon scales. How many is kind of good? Like, sound off in the chat if you're watching right now. How many dragon scales has everyone got? Because I watch the show to get the feed every week, and I'm like accumulating.
You're doing good. People, I give out dragon scales.
Never mind. My bad. The first one, Catnip Ninja, says 112,000, and I have 3.7 thousand.
3.7 thousand is a lot. Let's see. With 3.7 thousand, you can get a highlighted message. You can unlock a random emote. You can send a message in sub-only mode, but I never use that. You can choose an emote to unlock. You can modify an emote, like take an emote and put sunglasses on it or something. You're halfway to requesting a game for on.
You know what else I can get for 3.7 thousand bits? My own show with Trisha Hirschberger.
Don't advertise that. That's not publicly available for 3.7 thousand dragon scales.
No. 3.7 million, and then we'll talk.
You're
Well, that is,
hilarious.
that is the playing portion. It's time for Bombs Away Q&A.
Yes.
Q&A area where if you get your questions in before, you can do so on patreon.com/geekbomb. You get a heads up on not only who the weekly guest is every other week, but you also get prioritized questions in this segment. And we'll also take questions live from the Twitch that Amy will be keeping an eye on. Highlighted comments, posts do a little bit better, so I hear. But hey there, Amy, what's our Bombs Away Q&A?
So this question is from patron Zraken75. Do you prefer story-driven games such as The Last of Us Part 2 and Order 1886, or more linear, like action player interactive games?
Interesting.
I don't know that I would pit story-driven and linear as separate types of games. Like, I always think linear and story-driven usually our games fall into both of those things.
Open world or linear. So open world, you get to sort of roam in the areas and unlock the maps as you see fit, but linear is sort of like A, B, C, D, E, F.
Right, but a lot of story-driven games are linear because, like, The Last of Us 2, I would say is a linear game because you're doing things in a certain order to tell the story in a certain way, as opposed to a Witcher that's just open world and you can, or, you know, Breath of the Wild, where you can uncover the story in whatever kind of chunk you want. But in general, I like story-driven, more linear games as opposed to open world. I know open world gives you more freedom, and people are, you know, video game companies are constantly saying, the biggest open world yet.
That's so intimidating.
I want a good story, and I don't want to have to spend 400 hours to get it. Now, that being said, if I play through a story-driven game and I want to replay it, there's certainly more replayability with an open world game. But I'm a linear story-driven girl. What about you, Maude?
The 2 times I've played Skyrim, they have felt like uniquely 2 different games in the same universe, because like I've made different decisions. You cannot play that game the same way twice. And I sort of love that. I remember when I first played Oblivion back in like 2009, one of the Elder Scrolls games, it just plopped you in the middle of the world and was kind of like, go. And I was like, you know, tell me where to go, you know. And I also don't necessarily like it where, you know, you can free roam and then the enemies will kind of match your XP. I like having low-level enemies and then you can tackle and take on harder enemies the more experience you get. Witcher is a great example of that, where they will say like the level of the enemies, and every now and then you'll wander off too far and there'll be someone hiding, you know, guarding a hidden treasure, and their level will just be a red death skull, and you're like, bye.
Yeah.
So I like that. If that answers the question, which it doesn't at all. Thank you so much, Lord. What's the Twitch question?
This one's from STS2884. What is your most anticipated game left in 2020?
Cyberpunk 2077. That's coming out in 2020, right?
Is it coming out?
Now I'm like second guessing myself. It was supposed to be.
I feel like everything has been delayed this year.
I know.
2020's been cancelled, guys. We just happen to still be in it. Yeah.
Yeah, November. It's now November 19th, 2020. So Cyberpunk 2077 is my answer.
What other game releases are happening this year? I'd kill for another Mario Galaxy.
There's a lot of stuff that's holiday 2020, even if we don't have, like, a lot of the newer next-gen stuff that was shown off in the showcase. Some of that was even holiday 2020.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Is that this year?
I don't know. But I thought I would love Odyssey a lot more than I did. I just found it to be... the schematics felt more repetitive. Go into the area, do this thing, do that combat, do that. Like I feel like there's so much more variation in The Witcher than in Assassin's Creed. I just felt like it was just rinse and repeat a lot of the time.
I am a little nervous for Valhalla. Not gonna lie. I'm a little nervous because, I mean, the whole thing with Assassin's Creed is being an assassin and, like, stealthing around, and Vikings are not stealthy combat warriors. They are in your face, pillage and plunder, and I think that inherent conflict is going to be very hard to make it feel like an Assassin's Creed game. Even from what we've seen so far, I'm like, this just kind of feels like a Vikings action RPG. It doesn't necessarily feel like an Assassin's Creed game.
I'm going old school with this comment, and I am definitely dating myself on it. Sup, Maude? You're cute. But I want Valhalla to be anything like Golden Axe, where you got to choose between the 3 characters, and one of them was the Viking. He was the best character to choose out of those 3. I just want anything like that again. Anyone remember Golden Axe? Golden Axe?
I remember Golden Axe.
Yay.
I do. But yeah, I mean, the one thing Ubisoft does really well with the Assassin's Creed games is the historical research that goes into it and the accuracy. So from a like interested about Viking history, I think that game's going to be cool. I just am I'm a little concerned about the gameplay. So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Which Assassin's Creed has been your favorite so far?
Oh, that's a tough question.
There is a correct answer to your opinion.
There's a correct answer to my opinion.
Yeah.
There were definitely historical things I liked a lot about Odyssey. Maybe Black Flag.
That is the correct answer. We can progress to the next round. Black Flag was the best one. So good.
Yay!
Yes,
All right, Amy, thank you so much for the bombs away. We always love having you, and we will see you soon for the watching portion of the show. Thank you, Amy. All right, folks. Well, this has been the playing portion of today's Power Up, and this week's Power Up, I should say. Maude, if people want to check out the after show, where can they do that?
Yes, we are putting that up as a Patreon perk for $10 and higher. This is where Trisha and I will literally, and Amy, and the guest more often than not, actually, we will take time to power down. And we're in Power Up. We talk about all things playing, watching, reading. In Power Down, we talk about life. We talk about personal things. We talk about opinions. We use it to vent. It is definitely a for paid eyes only kind of space. So on that one, patreon.com/geekbomb if you want to get involved.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much for watching the playing portion of the show. We'll move on to watching next.